Yeah.
Perfect.
Lovely.
Is that lovely?
Pretty sexy. Baby, don't leave
No, I
me.
won't.
What's good? This is your boy Internal. This is your boy Internal Sadist, the Internal Sadist Tico Tren. This podcast is going to be about women in this day and age, in the modern age, being delusional. They're delusional, mate. They're delusional. They're delusional, mate. They're delusional. But that's what we're going to talk about in this lovely subscrew hit. But this is what we're going to talk about in this lovely podcast this time around is the delusional women in this day and age. I'm going to talk about all the typical talking points when it comes to all the delusional women and things like that. So we're going to try to go through this as fast as humanly possible because I don't want to hold y'all niggas hostage, you know. And when I say niggas, I mean black, white, Chinese, Puerto Rican, Asian. I don't give a damn. Y'all all niggas in my ass. But let's talk about the first part of delusion that a lot of women suffer from. They typically have this thing where they believe that they're of more value than men. Don't get me wrong; they do deliver. They do have babies when they want to. They do have babies when they want to, or if they deem it necessary to, or if they want to take somebody to court. They typically will have babies. Things along the lines of that. But at the end of the day, like I always say, when it comes to men and women are different, equal but different. They're not equal on the same playing field as far as athleticism and stuff like that. They're equal under the guise that they all bring different things to the table that actually make people complete. So that's about it. They all bring their own little traits and things and abilities to the table to make a complete team for all intents and purposes. Unfortunately, women in this day and age don't like to play on a team. They like to always believe that they are the team, or you should be happy to have them on the team. Things along the lines of that, which makes for a very stressful or a very delusional relationship for a lot of men. The sad part about that is when women believe that they're the stars of the team, they typically end up always putting men in precarious situations or in precarious predicaments, basically, i.e. divorce, rape, i.e. False accusations, i.e. Things along the lines of that, all because a man didn't fit or a man didn't capitulate to them. So they'll basically run them to the ringer for all intents and purposes. And if you're getting divorce rate, 9 times out of 10, you didn't change a little too much, and now she got to discard you for all intents and purposes, which is sad. I was raised in a family where, what's up, Black Earth? I was raised in a family where marriage meant everything, or marriage was everything. And it literally wasn't until death do us part. Sadly, unfortunately, in this day and age, it means nothing. And it sucks at the end of the day. And people use it as a bit of women use it as a bit of a security blanket and a bludgeon when they went out for all intents and purposes. Think of it like this. Women typically get married like CEOs of companies basically have golden parachutes at the end of the day. That's basically what marriage is to women. Golden parachute for CEOs at the end of the day. Goldman Sachs CEO, Goldman Sachs president, all those people basically have golden parachutes at the end of the day. The thing that bothers me about it is they do it with such carte blanche. Then when the shit starts backfiring in her face, they want to say, where have all the good men gone? Or how come men don't want to get married anymore? What's going on? They make videos like that, which ends up sounding funny as hell at the end of the day. The problem with it is women actually created the problem. They don't want to fix it, so they put it on men as being the problem at the end of the day. And they want men to fix it. The problem is, though, men aren't willing to fix it. So now they got to shame men. They got to manipulate men. They got to make men feel some type of way so they can get them to do it. And the sad part about that, a lot of men aren't really falling for that trick no more. It's basically like, think of it like this. The dance between men and women in this day and age is almost like a boxing match or a fight. And people are pulling the okie doke on men, basically. It's like before this, women would do stupid shit and then men would then men would fall for it and then get punched in the face or slid in the face, basically, or it's almost like a sucker punch, basically. This is typically what women are doing to men in this day and age. They're just sucker punching them, saying that, well, they're scared of a strong woman. No, the problem with being a strong woman is you got to know when to control yourself and actually act like you have some sense and actually be a woman. The problem with a lot of these women is they conceal themselves in such delusion to the point where they don't realize that they're their own worst enemy. They're their own problem. They're their own barriers. They're their own reason why they can't get a man at the end of the day. But they'll blame men and pretend like it's not their fault on why they can't get a man at the end of the day, which really sucks. It's the man's fault for not approaching me. It's the man's fault for this. It's the man's fault for this. It's the man's fault that I cheated. It's the man's fault for, and it's like they live in this world of delusion. The sad part about that is the reason why they live in this world of delusion is because at the end of the day, women still want to be traditional. They still want men to be traditional, but they want to be able to be brand new within this whole entire new structure, sadly. So men still have to be traditional. If you know anything about the 1950s and 60s and times before that, typically what happens, I've talked about this once or twice, back in the day, a woman may go shopping and stuff like that. And when she goes shopping, if she was to break something or destroy something, typically the man was responsible financially and or physically for replacing what the wife broke at the end of the day. This is typically why women always dodge fault or dodge any ramifications from outcome from anything in society, for the very fact that they're used to not having responsibility due to the fact that they were attached to a man and he was responsible for the whole entire household. So if the children broke something, he was responsible for it. Well, here's how it worked. If the children broke something, the wife was responsible for the child and the husband was responsible for the wife at the end of the day. That's typically how that works. So what ends up happening is the wife is responsible for the children and the husband's responsible for the wife. So the sad part about that is it typically just rolls downhill to the husband. So whatever the children do, the wife is responsible for the children and the husband's responsible for the wife. So the wife gets a layer of protection at the end of the day when it comes down to it. The sad part about that is when it's all said and done, you typically run into a problem where women can't take responsibility for their own actions for this very reason. It sucks, it's sad, but this is why. This is the reasoning behind why they can't take responsibility for their own actions, because men have taken responsibility for their actions for so long. Women don't know how to stand on their 2 feet and take their own responsibility. This is typically why women can come out here and say, well, it's his fault because I cheated. It's his fault because he cheated. Even though I didn't want to give him sex, it's his fault. Even though I'm getting divorced, it's his fault why I'm getting a divorce. Despite the fact that, I cheated, or despite the fact that I don't want to be with him and I still want to live my best days and my best life, basically, it's his fault why I want to do this. So the sad part about that is men are always falling on the knife or being thrown under the bus for every single little thing that a woman experiences or every single little thing that they go through. What's up, Black Earth? Already said that. What's up, Screwhead MGTOW? And what's up, Ricardo Rodney? But typically, men have to take responsibility for women, just as they were used to back in the day. Despite the fact that they're strong and independent, fierce and strong and independent women, men still have to take responsibility for women in this day and age. Just look at it. Anytime a relationship goes bad, she didn't do anything wrong. It was all his fault. Or if she did do something wrong, she did something wrong because it was him or because it was his fault. And that's typically how a lot of this stuff actually works. The sad part about that is women want to be strong and independent these days, but at the same time, they don't want to take responsibility for their own actions. There's another good example of women not taking responsibility for their own actions is you're starting to see a rise in women putting their hands on men and raising their hands to men. The sad part about that, what they fail to realize is they say they want to get rid of the patriarchy and the chivalry and all this stuff, but they forget when you get rid of that chivalry, you basically unchain a caged animal at the end of the day. This is typically how that works. That chivalry was set up. That chivalry, what's up, MGTOW? Just playing MGTOW. That chivalry was set up for the very reason and a very purpose, so you can basically keep men shackled, so you won't see their unbridled rage, or you won't see, because I talked about this in another video where I say society and women basically chain men and hold men back. Basically, at the end of the day, it keeps men from reaching their full potential. It keeps men from, from their unbridled strength and unbridled rage, basically, by having chivalry in women in society at the end of the day. So that's basically what happens. The sad part about that is when you want to get rid of chivalry and you want to get rid of masculinity and all that stuff, what ends up happening is you want equality. So when you swing at a man, that chivalry is gone because you say it's toxic masculinity, and or what's the other word that they use to say that it's the patriarchy? Chivalry is the patriarchy, and men should show their emotions and feelings. So the sad part about that is when men show their emotions and feelings, people get swung on. There's no longer nothing to hold them back from their true unbridled strength. There's nothing to hold them back from their true unbridled rage. There's nothing to hold them back. There's nothing to cage them. There's nothing to hold them when they let loose on somebody at the end of the day. Because the sad part about that is you want men to be equals and emotional and all this stuff, and now people are getting decked in the face and wondering, oh my God, I can't believe you're a girl. Well, now see, gender. I thought gender wasn't a thing. I thought gender was a construct. I thought gender was made up by the patriarchy. Now all of a sudden, now you're a female and we're not equal. Now that you got punched in the face, now how's that work? How do you expect to be equal if you want to be treated like a baby, or you want to be treated special at the end of the day? You can't be treated special if you don't have any special privileges. I mean, if you don't have any special needs, if everybody's equal at the end of the day, you can't have it both ways. You can't be equal. Then when the punches start flying, you want special privileges. It doesn't work like that. That's not how this works. Then on top of that, you want to use the female card, but according to feminism, there's nothing different between men and women, and they're equal, and women can do everything that a man can do up until fists start flying. And all of a sudden now, I can't believe you hit a woman. You can't have it both ways. That's not how none of this stuff works. You can't sit up here and say that you're equal, and there's no such thing, there's no difference between men and women, and, gender is nothing more than a construct by the patriarchy. But then when you get smacked in the face, now all of a sudden now you remember very quickly that you're a woman and he's a man, and somebody should do something about this. You can't have it both ways. That's not how this world works. Either you got to have it one way or the other way. You can't have it both ways. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have your cake and have it in your face and then cry about it at the end of the day. It's either you eat the cake or somebody provides you the cake at the end of the day. Somebody provides you the cake, or you buy the cake and you serve the cake, or the man provides the cake and you get to eat the cake, basically. You can't have it both ways at the end of the day. So what you end up doing, what's up, one fast Dak? So at the end of the day, what you end up doing is creating a quagmire of problems that you don't foresee, because again, when it comes to delusion, you believe when you make a plan, it's going to work perfectly and everything's going to be unicorns and rainbows. Up until somebody starts swinging, and then you realize the unicorns and rainbows aren't really working, and shit hits the fan, and now you want white knights to come in and save you. The sad part about that is it doesn't work like that. You can't have it like that, and that's not how the world ever works. It's kind of like what I say when it comes to women wanting to do things that don't really sound particularly sane or particularly thing. Because here's my thing. When it comes to it, okay, fine. We'll play devil's advocate when it comes to women. Women should be able to walk around with no shirt and no bra. Okay, we'll go down that road, and nothing should happen to them. Unfortunately for you, there's this thing called, there's 15% of human beings that exist in this world that do sick, foul things to animals and human beings, no matter what your gender, no matter what your species is. There's people that do sick, foul things to human beings in this world, and animals and living things in this world, They don't care about a gender. They don't care about a species. They don't care about what you are. They just do sick, foul things because they get a kick out of it. The sad part about that is once you boil it down, if you want to walk around with no shirt on, you gotta receive the consequences that come with it. Like a good example, now that I'm actually working out and stuff like that heavily, and I'm actually just doing more bodybuilding than powerlifting. Typically, when I'm not wearing a shirt, I have people that touch me and want to grab me and grope me and grab my stomach and chest and stuff like that. That's wrong. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We're not dating. Don't touch me. At the end of the day, just like if you're going to walk around with no shirt, you kind of got to expect the fallout to not having a shirt. Let it be a guy looking, let it be a children looking. Because the sad part about that, when it comes down to it, you can't say you should be able to do anything but not think about the children, because that's indecent exposure, and children aren't allowed to look at dirty magazines or any type of pornography up until they're 18 at the end of the day. So in all technicality, what you're actually doing is creating problems for society. Because now I have to retrain my children that even though you can't buy this porno magazine or watch pornos until you're 18, this woman gets to walk around half naked and you get to see this in all its glory. Like, think about that. That's kind of like the argument that everybody uses where I'm 18, I could join the military, but I can't drink and I can't smoke. Well, now you can't drink and smoke now because they raised the age to 21 now. So you can join the military at 17, 18, but you can't drink and you can't smoke. Like, think about that for a second. You can go off and die in a foreign country, but you can't drink and you can't smoke in the United States at the end of the day. Let that sink in for a second. That's basically the same thing. What you can't do as a woman is walk around and expect society to change, because at the end of the day, if you're going to walk around naked, that means porn should be readily available to my now 9-year-old Laszlo. 9-year-old Laszlo. So Laszlo should be allowed to watch porn at 8, 9 years old now, basically. So people will say, oh my God, children shouldn't do that. Okay, then why does that woman get to walk around in public with no top on? If children ain't allowed to watch or look at porn. The sad part about that, it's funny how women want to do this, but they find, or they pretty much damn near threw that dad under the bus for buying his son a stripper. His son was like under 18. He was like 15. I want to say he was like 13, 14, 15. And he got him a stripper. And they damn near condemned the man and put him under the jail, basically. They pretty much fined him to hell and took away his rights as a father, basically, damn near. And the sad part about that is, but women want to walk around like this. Like, think about that. That's perfectly fine. But what I'm going to tell you is, I'm not finna save you from stupidity. I don't save anybody from stupidity. If a crazy person walks up on you, it's not my job to save you. It's now your job to save yourself. Because if you want to walk around like that, just know, like I said, that 15% of human beings that always seem to pop up, there's 15% of human beings that do sick, foul things to any living organism or living human being in or animal will pop up, and like they always do conveniently, and shit will happen. And nobody wants to save you because equality. Because it's not my job anymore. If we're all equal, it's no longer my job to save you. If we're equal, I shouldn't have to save you from a man beating your ass. If we're all equal, I shouldn't have to break up any fights that you get into. If we're all equal, I shouldn't have to save you from anything or take responsibility for anything you get yourself into at the end of the day. It doesn't work like that. Because if we're all equal, we need to actually act as such and do as such, basically, at the end of the day. Yeah, they're pushing women to become Navy SEALs now, and I would like to see that, and that should be an interesting task. Now, the question is, would they lax it for women to do it, or would they make them actually overcome obstacles to do it? If they ever have to overcome obstacles to do it, I'm perfectly fine with that. If they lax it for them, now they're going to make the Navy SEAL weak now. If they're going to lax it for women, they're going to make the Navy SEALs weak. And what's the point of having Navy SEALs if they're going to be weak? Like, there's no point in having a special forces if the special forces can't perform at the high levels that they perform at the end of the day. So I agree with you. That's a dumb idea if they're going to lax. Now, if they're going to make the women jump those hurdles that everybody else have to, I'm perfectly fine with that. Jump those hurdles, pimpin'. Jump those hurdles. But if they're going to lax it for women, now you're turning our Navy SEAL into the regular into regular Marines or regular Navy or regular ass branch now. Like, you can't have special forces and lacks the outcome or lacks the requirements to get in at the end of the day, because now they're not special forces, especially just another branch of the regular ass branch of the military. So I would say, if they're going to do it, make them jump the hurdles that everybody else have to jump. Don't lower the standards for women to get in at the end of the day, because that would be stupid as hell. And that would make us look dumb as hell. And that would make us look like we ain't shit and right for the taking, basically, at the end of the day, if you do that. But back to the sad part about that, when it comes down to it, most women in this world live under this false guise that, everybody's equal up until lefts and rights are thrown, or, shit hits the fan. And then all of a sudden now I'm a woman and I want to be saved. It's kind of like what the RPM says. When the lights go out, the pigtails come out, and all of a sudden now they're Pippi Longstocking and they're girls now, basically. It's typically how it works. It's sad, but it's true. He's like, it's funny how women are so tough up until shit hits the fan. And all of a sudden now they're not tough anymore. Or they think they're tough and they think they can beat the world up until one guy just lays them out or decks them out. And all of a sudden now that, oh my God, equality, I'm a woman now. Yeah, if that happens, our enemies will come. That's actually very true, MGTOW. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, a lot of women will try to flip or subvert a message to you to make you feel as though all this stuff is happening. The sad part about that is they already got a lot of the younger generation men with this bullshit, basically. And now you see them running around looking like Bougie Billy and shit like that. Now, if you know anything about Bougie Billy, go check out It's a Gundam's thing on Bougie Billy. A lot of men are running around looking like that now. Bad bougie lifestyle, basically. This is typically a lot of the men that are growing up and look like this and act like this, dress like this and act the part, basically. The sad part about that, there's another group of men who are growing up like this who, typically, act a certain way, look a certain way, portray themselves a certain way, but they swear up and down that they're not that way. And to me, I typically say you are that way. Because I'm a jerk like that. But at the end of the day, another thing that a lot of women fucked up in society is the children. But they want to blame men for not being there. You can't put a man out the house or can't take a man to court and expect them to still be working with you. Or you can't be strong and independent, then blame a man for not being there with you. You can't be strong and independent and then blame your children on society at the end of the day, when in fact it's actually your fault. Because I get that society's moving that way, but at the end of the day, it's still your fault, because you have to raise your child in this fucked up world at the end of the day as a parent. It don't matter that the dad's not there. It don't matter that you divorce rate the dad and the dad can't have, because I look at it like this. If the dad can't have visitation rights, then how the hell can you blame the dad for your child growing up the way it did? How can you, and if you are going to blame the dad, or if you are going to divorce rate the dad, how can you divorce rate the dad and then tell the children that it's his fault and he doesn't want to see you, but then turn around and blame the dad for not being there? It doesn't work that way. That's a delusional thought, basically. You can't blame the dad. You can't tell the children it's your dad's fault why he's not here and he doesn't want to see you, but then turn around and say that, my children grew up because they didn't have a father in their life. It doesn't work like that. You can't have it both ways. What's up, Corey Still? You can't have it both ways. You can't tell the children that their dad hates them, and the reason why he's not there is because he hates them and he has nothing to do with them, but then turn around later when your children grow up to be serial killers and drug addicts and runaways and teen pregnancies and all this stuff. You can't turn around and then say, well, it's the father's fault for not being in their lives. After you done pretty much court orderly removed them from the life or buried them under jail or buried them under the system, you can't turn around and blame the dad for not being in their lives if you actually destroyed the dad and destroyed the relationship between the children at the end of the day. It's sad, but it's true. And what I am enjoying now is there's a lot of men growing up and a lot of men growing up realizing that they missed out on their time with their dad because their mom told them one thing and they found out something else totally different. And they believed that their dad didn't want to see them or wanted nothing to do with them. Meanwhile, their mom was just bitter and hurt and trying to turn their children against them. It's sad, but it happens on a regular basis. But what I am enjoying is all the videos where the sons and some of the daughters, but mostly the sons, grow up and they make a video about saying that how their dad didn't want to see them, and they were told by their mom how their dad didn't want to see them. They didn't want to do nothing to do with them. And the sad part about that is when they get older, they find out very quickly that they've been trying to see them, but their mom never bought them for visitation, and a court never enforced it. And when they go to enforce it, they end up getting arrested by the police. When they go to try to get their visitation, they end up getting arrested by the police because somehow, some way, there's a court order or for a PFA or a court order that he can't come within X amount of feet of this property or of this woman, basically. And the sad part about that is the woman decides if she wants to drop the child off or not. And the sad part about that is the court never enforces that shit. So now boys are growing up finding out very quickly that their mom turned them against their father, and it's sad to watch those videos. But it's refreshing to watch those videos, but it's sad to realize that these children lost precious time with their fathers. They lost precious time and memories and moments with their father, sadly. Come to find out at 18, 20, 30, 40 years old that their dad wanted everything to do with them, but their mom told them otherwise. This is another delusion that a lot of women live in, where they blame the father and then get mad later and say, well, your father didn't want to be a part of your life, and then say, well, my children are this way because I blame the father for them being this way because he didn't want to be a part of their lives. When in fact, there's court order documents saying that, the father can't see his children, or the father should see his children, but the mother's not letting them. And then you got the court, just riding along blindly with their eyes closed, following the woman down that dark path or down that dark hell, basically. It's sad, but it's true. That's another thing that a lot of people fail to realize when they get into this shit or don't see this as a father, basically. Another delusional thing that women live in, basically, is they have this delusion that when they turn 30 plus, 40 plus, that they'll find a man. They're finding out very quickly that that's not a thing. Don't get me wrong. Before a woman get on here and be like, well, I found my man at 30-something there. That's called an exception to the rule. That doesn't make it an actual thing. That's just an exception to the rule, basically. There's what's actually going on, and then there's you. You're lucky. It's like gambling, like playing craps and somehow, some way rolling sevens the whole entire time. You basically was playing on recruit mode, basically. But at the end of the day, when it comes to a lot of these women, it's one of those things where they believe that, they can have children after a certain age and damn near not lose their lives. Sad part about that, a lot of women are finding out very quickly getting pregnant after a certain age is very detriment to the body. Getting pregnant after a certain time can kill you. Getting pregnant after a certain time in your life has risk problems, or you can't have children, or you have to freeze some eggs just to find out later that you paid all this money to freeze some eggs. Finding out this stuff very late that, now you can't have children, you're barren, or nobody wants you after 30, basically. And then they'll blame the men going after younger women. The sad part about that is, what you fail to realize is when it comes to biology, men particularly want their own lineage. Men basically want to have their own children. Look at the black pill community. The doom and gloom black pill community. They want their own children. They want to basically be able to pass on their offspring. The sad part about that is that's typically all men. All men want to be able to pass on their offspring at one given point or another at the end of the day. Pass on their genes, basically. The sad part about that is if you're 30, men are less likely, 30 plus, men are less likely to chance or roll a dice and actually want to take a chance on you if you're able to have children, or maybe you'll be able to have children or not, basically. Sad part about that is it's not worth a lot of men's time. So typically they basically just don't play the game, or they'll typically go for younger women to do this, sadly. Now, don't get me wrong. There are those outliers, all those women who do it. But if you ever notice, like people like Beyonce and Serena Williams, they had a lot of complications, and they damn near lost their lives at the end of the day when they tried that shit. Sad part about that, you don't see Serena Williams running out there to have another child. If you notice, let's just keep it 100. But it is what it is. At the end of the day, women live in this delusion that their bodies will last forever, when in fact all their bodies basically have a time limit on it and a time frame on it at the end of the day before their time is up. It is what it is. But this is she's delusional. There will be a part 2 to this. I don't want to drag it on. Like I said, I don't want to hold y'all hostage. So stay tuned for the second. She's delusional, mate. She's delusional. Coming up in about a few days or so. All right. Y'all have a good one. Peace, love, and chicken grease. Be good to yourselves. Treat yourselves like milk. Do not spoil yourselves. And always do better for yourselves. And always try to be a better version of yourself. That goes for anybody. Man or woman or child. Apache helicopter, trans, whatever the heck you are, gay, straight, lesbian. Always try to improve yourself and make yourself a better version of yourself. And always try to be a better version of yourself and always improve upon yourself to be a better person at the end of the day. Y'all be blessed. Have a good one. And be good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Lovely.
Is that lovely?
Pretty sexy. Baby, don't leave
No,
me.
I want to.